Thursday, September 13, transfer to Caesarea. Upset with the fact that they had not yet gotten rid of Paul by legal means, a group decided to orchestrate a plan through which they would ambush and kill him on their own. Question. Read Acts 23, verses 12 to 17. What was their plan, and how is it thwarted? What does this teach us about how passionate people can be for causes that are wrong? Acts 23, beginning at verse 12. The next morning some Jews formed a conspiracy and bound themselves with an oath not to eat or drink until they had killed Paul. More than 40 men were involved in this plot. They went to the chief priests and the elders and said, "We have taken a solemn oath not to eat anything until we have killed Paul. Now then, you and the Sanhedrin petition the commander to bring him before you on the pretext of wanting more accurate information about his case. We are ready to kill him before he gets there." But when the son of Paul's sister heard of this plot, he went into the barracks and told Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions and said, "Take this young man to the commander. He has something to tell him." That more than 40 Jews conspired together against Paul and bound themselves with an oath reveals how much hatred the apostle had aroused in Jerusalem. Luke does not give us the identity of these men, but they were extremists, willing to do whatever it took to protect the Jewish faith from its alleged traitors and enemies. Such a level of religious fanaticism, coupled with a revolutionary and nationalistic fervour, was not uncommon in first-century Judea and its environs. In some providential way, however, the news about the plot reached the ears of Paul's nephew. It is somewhat disappointing that we know almost nothing about Paul's family, but apparently he and his sister had been brought up in Jerusalem. Acts 22, verse 3, "I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city. I studied under Gamaliel and was thoroughly trained in the law of our ancestors. I was just as zealous for God as any of you are today." Where she married and had at least one son. Anyway, Paul's nephew, the diminutive Neaniskos, and the fact that he was taken by the hand imply he was still a teenager and was able to visit him in the fortress and tell his story. More about Neaniskos in Acts 23, verse 18 to 22. So he took him to the commander. The centurion said, "Paul the prisoner sent for me and asked me to bring this young man to you because he has something to tell you." The commander took the young man by the hand, drew him aside and asked, "What is it you want to tell me?" The commander dismissed the young man with this warning, "Don't tell anyone that you have reported this to me." Question. Read Acts 23, verses 26 to 30. What message did Commander Lysias send Governor Felix about Paul? Acts 23, beginning at verse 26. Claudius Lysias to His Excellency Governor Felix. Greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, and they were about to kill him. But I came with my troops and rescued him, for I had learned that he is a Roman citizen. I wanted to know why they were accusing him, so I brought him to their Sanhedrin. I found that the accusation had to do with questions about their law, but there was no charge against him that deserved death or imprisonment. When I was informed of a plot to be carried out against the man, I sent him to you at once. I also ordered his accusers to present to you their case against him. The letter provided Felix with a fair report of the situation. In addition, it shows how Paul was benefited by his Roman citizenship. The Roman law fully protected its citizens, who had the right, for example, to have a legal trial in which they could appear before the court and defend themselves. We read that in Acts 25:16. I told them that it is not the Roman custom to hand over anyone before they have faced their accusers and have had an opportunity to defend themselves against the charges, and the right to appeal to the emperor in case of an unfair trial. Acts 25, verses 10 and 11. Paul answered, I am now standing before Caesar's court, where I ought to be tried. I have not done any wrong to the Jews, as you yourself know very well. If, however, I am guilty of doing anything deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if the charges brought against me by these Jews are not true, no one has the right to hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar." Irrespective of Felix's reputation, he treated Paul in the proper legal manner. After a preliminary interrogation, he ordered him to be kept under guard until the accusers arrived. And so to finish today, think about God's providence in Paul's life. How often have you humbly acknowledged God's providence in your own life, despite the trials and suffering you might have gone through?